Welcome to the Father on Purpose podcast, a show designed to help dads disciple their children. It's for fathers who don't just want to raise children, but lead them in a way that honors Jesus. It's a place where you might discover, for the first time, that you're not a father on accident, which makes you, of course, a father on purpose. To help guide us on that journey are our hosts, Kent Evans and Lawson Brown. Kent's a husband, a dad, an author, and the co-founder of Manhood Journey. Lawson's a husband, a father, a military veteran, and business executive. He believes that if he just keeps trying, one day he'll get Kent to have a coherent train of thought. Good luck with that. As you listen, we hope you'll find biblical ideas, practical tips, and even have some fun along the journey. Every single dad is a disciple maker. The only question? Discipling them. How? To where? Let's discover that together. As we dive in, remember, you are not a father on accident, so go be a father on purpose. Welcome aboard.
Hey, Dad, do you ever feel like being a dad is mundane? Like same old, same old. Go to work, help your kids with the homework, drag the ball bag to the practices. It can feel pretty rote or boring or uninspiring. However, some of the best things in life are routine and repetitive. Doing the seemingly mundane work of fatherhood over time is kind of like investing. Bit by bit, we often start to see compound results. It's worth it to keep at it. So don't let the daily grind have you down. Today we're going to talk about 5 basic things godly dads never get tired of. And by never, I mean, we'll probably get tired of them, but after having listened to today's show, you'll be ready for it.
Speak for yourself. Yeah,
right.
It's not easy. It's easy to put into the slogan, not easy to carry out.
No doubt. Today's show is brought to you by Range Leather. As you've probably heard us say before, if you're a regular if you're a regular listener, you've heard us say before, Range Leather makes amazing products right here in the good old US of A. Go to their store at rangeleather.com, and use the code MJ15 to get 15% off your next order of a bag or a wallet or some earrings for your wife or a new Apple Watch band. Go check it out, rangeleather.com. Use the code MJ15. So Lawson.
No tariff needed. No tariff impact.
Here we go. That's a very dated comment. If you're listening to this in the future, remember that time? When there were a lot of changes to our tariff structure in the United States?
Yeah.
I do wonder what a guy like Kyle Koster, is he going to have higher leather goods costs? I don't know.
It depends on where that Horween leather comes from.
Well, it comes from Chicago, I think. So,
as
far as I know, Chicago is still in America. They haven't seceded yet. So,
that's right.
Chicago.
I hope so.
Let's go, Chi-Town. One of the things we want to look at, we'll look at 5 things, and there's probably, Lawson, like 50 that we could look at, that as a dad, you might have found to be somewhat repetitive. You may have found like every day or every week or every month, you got to do this thing. And, when you do it, there's no fireworks going off. There's no brass band playing and no flag waving. It could seem insignificant, could seem unimportant. Yet, over time, these things compound. And staying in the game, doing the basics, doing that basic kind of work is really, really important. I saw a video one time of Steph Curry making, I can't remember the exact number, but it was about 103 or 104 3-pointers in a row at practice. So he's in this gym and he's got a rack of balls and they just keep feeding him balls and he just keeps shooting 3-pointers one after the other for like minutes and minutes on end without missing. And it was over 100. And what's fascinating about that is you would not watch that video and go, you know what? I bet he just started playing that game. Like, I bet you that's his first time ever shooting a basketball. You conclude immediately the exact opposite. You go, oh my goodness. How often has that dude shot a basketball for him to be at the place where he can make 100 in a row? I couldn't stand under the goal from 2 feet and make 100 layups in a row, much less 100 3-pointers.
I'm not going to say it.
Well, don't you? Because the goal is so far away from me. Even if I'm standing right under it, I know what you're thinking. Do you think people who listen to the show can tell that I'm short just by the way I talk? I mean, you never know. Like,
You don't
audio
sound
height.
short. You don't
Audio
sound
height is a thing. Oh, man.
I thought
One
you
of
were
those-
going to say about Steph Curry, I thought you were going to say, is that an exciting day for him? Because it is not. You know, he
Yeah.
is there. Like, I heard, I'm going to get the timing wrong, but when I think
Yeah, you
after
probably
Tiger won, after Tiger Woods won the Masters, like he went back to work on his grip, just his grip.
Wow.
Like he wanted to change the way his hands were gripping because he knew he was going to need to change something on his game. Like that's the most boring thing, just like shooting 100 free throws.
Right.
Yeah.
To wrap
I
up
looked
your
up.
practice. Yeah.
I like the title, finding joy in the mundane, because it is something to do. It is something to be grateful for and to find joy in. I looked up mundane in the dictionary, which is the internet.
On the interwebs.
And it says lacking interest or excitement, dull. It goes on, it says every day, like just an everyday thing. Routine, unremarkable, ordinary, practical, boring, uninteresting, dull. And when you mentioned like investing, doing $50 a paycheck,
Right.
That's is that going to win you awards or make you rich quick? No, but if you just keep doing, keep plodding, I think there is some freedom in releasing yourself of chasing excitement, chasing the fireworks in your life, and finding a way to become more content with the everyday.
Yeah. We're going to look at 5 things today. I'm going to list them real quick, and we'll double back and start with number 1. 5 things that godly dads don't get tired of doing. Number 1, holding down a job. Number 2, loving your wife sacrificially. Number 3, praying for your family. Number 4, tackling endless errands and tasks. And number 5, fighting temptation and distraction. Let's talk about holding down a job. And real quick, as an aside, there may be a guy listening who is retired or whose wife makes $1 billion a year or some other reason why they have decided to, not have the guy be working. However, 90-something% of the guys listening to this show have told us they're still working. They're currently still holding down a job. They're not retired. And that in many cases, they are the sole breadwinner in their family, or they carry the lion's share of the financial burden in terms of, the money that they make. So the vast majority of our listeners are busy dads who have a job right now. And some days their job might be super exciting and have a lot of upside to it. I had a really fun meeting today in my job, and it's enlivening when I have fun and interesting meetings with people. And then other days, I'm doing the budget, or I'm checking our web statistics, or I'm writing a first draft of some content, or I'm putting notes in Airtable for our podcast show. So some days there's not a big excitement, and it becomes kind of a rote exercise to do your job. And while we do want to, have great effort, Colossians 3:23, right? Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. There is honor in just keeping going, even when the work might not be thrilling or challenging.
Audrey, my wife, her father is 80, I think 82 or 83. And his work day was be at your desk 8:15, 8:30, leave around 4:30, and you get a lunch break. And he was always has been a draftsman, a metal engineer, a steel engineer. So like the inside of a structure of a building, which is sit at your desk. And back then, especially, was a pencil and a ruler
Yeah.
and straight edge. It's computers now, but there's still a degree of like the same, you're making lines, you're measuring, and it's meticulous. Dude, he has been, I think the last I talked to him, it was in his 47th year at that job.
Wow.
And so you mentioned loyalty, and there's something honorable, about what I think is you don't need to be the CEO and have a big title and, a fancy job. It can be that unsung person that gets it done and is reliable and is stable, dependable. You can count on them. They're not calling out, throughout the week. Any little excuse to, maybe stand away from the desk or not get the job done or hide in the back or attend a meeting and keep your mouth closed and not really join in and participate. It's like there are ways to like you said, you go to a particular meeting or a customer, there are some customers that you're with and you're like, I can't wait to be with that person. Like it's going to be a good, fun day. And then others, you're getting it done. You're covering the topics. It's not really exciting, but being joyful in that, I think is what we're after. The point is, and you know what? Audrey's dad, Tony, is one of the most content people I've ever been around. Like he's just easy to be with. It's so good to be around a person who he is not chasing the next ladder. He is not always, what's next? This is whatever I have right now is not good enough. Whatever I'm doing right now is not, not exciting enough or whatever. Tony is just doing his thing. And I agree with you. I think it is honorable. And you ask him about it. He's like, I just love my job. I love who I'm working with. And he uses the word love. Like, that's joy. That is, I wake up in the morning. He does the same job repeatedly and he's happy with it.
Well, and we're teaching our kids something about just putting in the effort, putting in the reps, putting in the work. That is tangential to the actual work, right? It's whether you're a structural engineer or you are a physicist or you are, a lawyer, the idea that you put in the work day after day, week after week, year after year, teaches our kids something about perseverance and longevity. One of the best-selling Christian book series of all time is the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. Jack Canfield, probably first one, maybe 50 years old by now, 40 for sure. And he says in one of his books, he says, remember, you and you alone are responsible for maintaining your energy. Give up blaming, complaining, and excuse making, and keep taking action in the direction of your goals, however mundane or lofty they might be. What a great line. And don't forget, Dad, sometimes, we laud and praise the rags to riches guy who's the billionaire now, or the guy who has a book that's immediately a bestseller or whatever. And those accomplishments are noteworthy and really cool. At the same time, we don't give a lot of praise to that guy who, like your father-in-law, holds down a job for 40 something years and provides for his family and is stable and consistent. However, there's a character trait of God we're showing when we do that. And it's really, really important and hard for our kids to learn any other way.
That's right.
That's number one. Holding down a job can sometimes be boring and mundane. However, a lot of value in keeping at it. Number two, loving your wife sacrificially. I went today to Aldi, the grocery chain. And if you've ever been to Aldi, it's a little quirky in a couple ways. One of the ways it's quirky is there aren't any shopping carts for free. They're all connected by this odd chain gang kind of thing outside the building. And you need to take an actual quarter, like, these things we used to call change in America where we had coins. You have to take an actual quarter, put it in this little slot to get your cart to release. And then you go in and shop, you come out, and when you're done, you put your cart back, plug it back in, and voila, you take your quarter back. So it doesn't actually cost you anything, except you got to know the system. And I remember like that old movie, Mr. Mom with Michael Keaton. He didn't know the system of how to drop his kid off at school, and it was embarrassing. First 15 times I went to Aldi, I was like, I don't have a quarter. What's going on? Today, got out of my car, grabbed my quarter, got my cart, and thought, I am an Aldi professional. I'm literally an Aldi professional. And it reminded me, the reason I go to Aldi is because my wife sends me to Aldi. Like, she's the one who goes, hey, we're having a party tonight, and I need 3 or 4 things. I take a picture of her list. I go to Aldi, and it hit me today that the number of reps that I've had going to Aldi have finally made me an Aldi pro. I'm an Aldi pro. And so for the dad, for the husband who loves his wife sacrificially, and I know that I'm making a big deal out of a trip to the grocery, but it's the small things, right? It's like, it's the tiny little things that over time demonstrate a faithfulness that you just can't demonstrate any other way. And so I don't need a pat on the back. I don't need like an Aldi, plaque or certificate for my level of accomplishment at Aldi. However, there are things we do that are small acts of service for our wives, that loving them sacrificially over time in mundane and basic ways become this field of like corn. There's like thousands of stalks of corn out there, and you just see this rolling field. It looks really cool, but it's seed sown into your marriage in ways that are hard to measure at the time, but they yield a lot of fruit over time.
I think there's joy in the mundane of a marriage. Talk to anybody that's had a marriage over a couple of decades and ask them, hey, is every single day full of fireworks and passion and laughter? The answer obviously is no. There's plenty of days that are just plain old ordinary days. You're just sitting together quietly, nothing going on. That is something to be joyful for. That is something to be joyful in a stable, dependable, consistent marriage. And loving your wife does not mean that you're splurging every week or every weekend, and you got to go over and above whatever happened the week before, and you got to almost said win the you're not suiting her. It's fun and fresh and exciting in the very beginning, and then 10 years later, 20, 30, like you and I are coming up on our 30th, there are plenty of days that are just fantastic and exciting and fun, and we're doing something different and new. Most of the time is mundane. And remember the definition, it's everyday, routine, unremarkable, ordinary, boring. And that is something to be, I think, be grateful for that. Like, find the joy in that, because it means that you are in a dependable, consistent, repeatable, practical life together. And I think that's something to recognize. Loving your wife sacrificially, like Ephesians 5:25 says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. That's a lesson in, when it says give yourself up for her, that's putting her first. That is thinking of her needs before your own. That does not necessarily translate into an exciting hour by hour, minute by minute, day by day. That is the little things that add up over time because you continue to do them over and over and over, whether they're exciting or not.
Number 3, praying for your family. God never gets tired of us coming to him with our prayers of all kinds, whatever they are. I do think there is a unique connection to when a father goes before the Father and is praying on behalf of his wife and children that he loves. There's just a unique thing about those kinds of prayers. They're not necessarily more special, but they're just in this unique category because you're praying to the Father of all mankind about being a father. There's something about the heart of an earthly father that uniquely connects with the heart of the heavenly Father. In Philippians 4, it says, don't worry about things, but in everything, through prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. There's tons of prayers in the New Testament. Vast majority of them that are listed don't come with a very specific promise. It's not like do this and this is going to happen. But this is one of the areas where we get a very clear and very specific promise connected to our prayers. That is, when we present our requests to God, the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard our hearts and our minds in Christ Jesus. And so for me, my oldest is 26, my youngest is 10. Sometimes it's easy to continue to remember kind of what to pray for my 10-year-old about, because it's all front and center. I'm with him every day and we eat dinner together. He's at the table. I can lose sight as my kids have gotten older and have moved out. One's gotten married, one's in college, just took a job, one's engaged. I got 3 kind of on the way out, sliding out, and 2 still here. As a dad, I can sometimes go, praying, I pray at 10 a.m. and then I open my eyes at 10:01 a.m. I don't see anything change right that second, usually. Like, I prayed 25,000 prayers for all I know. And the vast majority, like 24,900 and something, I didn't pray. And then I opened my eyes and that thing was different. The leg magically got healed immediately, or the money magically was in a bank account, etc. So often you're going to pray and you're not going to see, like, that split second, a physical, tangible result. So prayer can start to fall into this category of mundane and boring, partly because you don't see fireworks go off after you pray. But man, a dad who keeps praying for his family, that is an honorable thing.
What do you think about this? What the world tells us versus what Scripture tells us are many times opposing instructions, suggestions. What society suggests is that we strive for excitement and success, the newest thing. That's what cultural marketing is kind of built on, like what we don't have or what we could have. In fact, I think it's what they're really trying to say more often is what we should have, what we're entitled to. And depending on the message, or the messenger, it's also how easy it could be to get it. I saw a billboard that underscores what I'm getting at here. It said, this is about what it said. It said, be happy with what you have. And it should just stop there, but it didn't. Be happy with what you have, but work toward what you want. Which, all right, to a degree, I get it. You want to work toward goals and that sort of thing. In fact, you've inspired me to start swimming laps again. I got the goggles, and you got to have a goal and work toward that goal. That's different than be happy with what you have, but work toward what you want, because what you have is not what you want. What you already have is not what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. What's interesting, Lawson, is you and I are recording this right at the same time that the NCAA championships being battled out. We're this weekend, after you and I record this, will be the Final Four games. And just for fun, real quick, trivia moment for our listeners. What college basketball team has the most national championships? And if you're under the age of 30 or 40, you're probably going to say North Carolina or UConn or Duke or Kentucky. And those are good ones. Those are good ones. Great guesses. However, you got to be a little older to remember UCLA. UCLA has the most national championships. That's 11. And back in the day, I can't remember whether it was 6 or 7 that they won in a row. And they were coached at the time by the legendary John Wooden. And John Wooden said something about this topic right here, not so much about prayer exactly, but about the topic in general that we're on. He said, the key is not the will to win. Everybody has that. It is the will to prepare to win that is important. The key is not the will to win. Everybody has that. It's the will to prepare to win.
Love it.
That is important. And I love that quote because it shows one of the things about how he thought. And it was that preparation, diligently executed over time, would, as a byproduct, create the championships. Not that you strive every year to win the championship. You strive every year to put in the work and do the job.
You know, before we go to number 4, tackling endless errands and tasks, which sounds so exciting, so fun. Um, the scripture that you read through about oh gosh, where it said, oh yeah, sorry, here.
Rewind the tape.
Right. Philippians 6:7, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds. So as you're praying for your family, we want to guard our hearts and minds against that marketing and that cultural press to always have more, always get more, always be striving, be happy with what you have, but keep working because you don't have enough. You don't have everything you want. And that's what I think we can pray for our family and guard our hearts.
That's right. Number 4, tackling endless errands and tasks. So today I went to Aldi. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to tell that story again. No, snoozer. Tackling endless errands and tasks. I love this verse. First Thessalonians 4:11 and 12. It says, and to aspire, Paul's talking to Thessalonians, and he says, hey, one of the things you can aspire to, which is funny if you look at that word, because it says, and to aspire to live quietly and to mind your own affairs, to work with your hands as we instructed you, so that you may walk properly before outsiders and be dependent on no one, so that you will owe them nothing but their love, right? This is the idea. So this idea that we're going to do some kind of job. And I know in that day and era, agrarian culture, aspire to live quietly, work with your hands. Today, you might be a guy who works with your hands doing, website coding or, financial accounting, but you're still kind of working in a job that is kind of plodding and one step after the other. I go see the same accountant every year to do my taxes. And I love the fact that he is so predictable. Like his office is set up the same way. His demeanor is the same demeanor. We take almost the exact same amount of time every year to get my taxes ready. It is very, very consistent because he's just a faithful worker at his job. He works with his hands and he's quiet. He minds his own affairs and he walks properly before outsiders. And as we're tackling our to-do list, whatever that is, and I've got several right now, like on our deck right this second, we have a umbrella that some birds or squirrels, I'm not sure which, decided to make a giant nest in it over the winter, and they cut the rope that makes the umbrella go up and down. And so now I have a problem. I took it apart. Parts bounced all over the deck. There's a spring over here and a thing over there. So I collected them all up, put them in a Ziploc baggie. And I spent about 2 hours one day trying to figure out how to put that thing back together. I feel like it's like Humpty Dumpty. It fell off the wall and it cannot be put back together again. I'm still trying. I went to Lowe's the other day, got some more paracord. I'm going to give it one more go. But that work, just putting in the work of those rote and kind of rudimentary tasks, can seem so mundane and so boring. However, very few things speak love to our wives and our families our willingness to do errands and tasks. One of my jobs after we have a party is to clean the floors. And sometimes we have pretty big parties, 40, 50, 60 people, and the floors are a mess. It's like they all came in with like a cup of dirt, and they, instead of just walking on the floor, they just went around the house in various places, just poured dirt, down on the floor on purpose. And you come after and go, what happened here? What happened? But one of my jobs is to clean the floors. And I don't need some kind of like fanfare, but
sounds like it. Sounds like you're,
man, over time, I'm trying to help other dads. Okay. If you want your wife to feel loved, clean the floors. There we go. I'm done. I'm not even going to cover number 5. You're on your own.
Number 5. I know it because we've been there, but dads, if you are in the mode of changing diapers and putting them to bed and doing bath time, and it's just Groundhog Day at 6:30 p.m. before bedtime every single day, and there's not a lot of excitement. It's the same thing. Be joyful. Let me tell you, man, there are people who would love to be able to, enjoy a young baby and just soak that up. Soak it up. You know, there's that statistic, Kent, that you've mentioned before about you spend 80% of your time with your children before they turn, I think it's either 18 or 16.
Yeah, I think it's 18.
Yeah. Soak it up. Be joyful in these mundane moments. You'll never get them back. Number 5, fighting temptation and distraction. And does that sound like an exciting thing to tackle? Does it? I mean, no, but what you gain from fighting that temptation and the distractions that are coming at us is that life of quiet faith, of, you know, the First Thessalonians 4:11, and to aspire to live quietly and mind your own affairs, like we just talked about. Like, if you are always tempted for the next thing, if you're always distracted with getting out of the moment you're in and chasing down something else, that is a frenzy. It's chaotic. That is not finding joy in the mundane. You got to fight that. You got to put on, like here in the notes, put on the full armor of God. Put on the full armor of God. Because it is a fight. It is coming at us at all times. Turn on a television, boot up a computer, go to a a homepage, and it's just information coming at you about, you should want this. You don't have this over here. Maybe your marriage isn't as great as what we're showing you on this picture. Whatever it may be. Maybe your kid is not as like the world is trying to tell us that it's broken. What we have is not enough. You're not quite there yet. Keep at it. Let me help you get what you don't have. That's temptation, man. And that is distraction from being in the moment and being with who you are with and enjoying that and finding joy in that quiet solitude every day.
Yeah. In 1 Corinthians 15, Paul says to the Corinthian church, verse 58, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. Then in 16, he comes back in verse 13 and says, be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. One of the things we've got to do is stand firm in the faith. We see that phrase that Paul used with Timothy in 1 Timothy 6:12, when he said in verse 12, fight the good fight of the faith. Fight the good fight of the faith. Sometimes that might look like this giant heavyweight battle, and there's this, slugging, and it's 15 rounds, and it's a big deal. It's like, Jacob wrestling with God. However, most days, it's small, little things. It's how much time we spend in the Word. It's whether we choose to endlessly scroll on social media and waste time. It's whether we look at our neighbor's thing and we have envy or we covet. It's whether we do the double take on a person that's not our wife and we're lusting, and whether we have pride or greed or anger. It's usually really small ones, really small moments. And over time, they compound for better or for worse. We got to put on the full armor. And I love this verse in Proverbs. Proverbs 4. 3 verses in a row, 25 through 27. Let your eyes look directly forward and your gaze be straight before you. Ponder the path of your feet, then all your ways will be sure. And here's the killer verse, 27. Do not swerve to the right or to the left. Turn your foot away from evil. It's this idea, right? I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and one of the things that we're famous for is the Kentucky Derby. This episode will come out not long before the Kentucky Derby, and you'll see horses that have blinders on. And the reason they have blinders on is to keep them focused down the track and not get distracted by all the other horses, by the other jockeys, by all the people in the stands. They put blinders on for that reason. And one of the reasons is we got to stay focused. And usually it's really, really small things. We got to fight temptation. We got to fight distraction. And I have good news. I can tell you with exact precision the day you no longer have to fight that fight. Ready? It's when you die. It's when you die. Because up until you die, every single day is going to have some kind of distraction, some kind of temptation, something at you, coming at you to get you off track. And we've got to have holy, godly blinders on to walk this walk of faith?
First Timothy 6 starts with 11, and it's talking about something prior. But as for you, O man of God, flee these things. So that's what's before. But what it tells us is what to pursue. And notice it doesn't say pursue motivation, further your career, pursue, is your wife okay for now? Maybe you could pursue a different one later. Not at all. I mean, it says, listen to these, pursue righteousness, pursue godliness, faith, love, steadfastness, and gentleness. I love that gentleness is in there because that is the opposite of what the world says. You need to be aggressive and go after what you want and step on whoever you need to step on to get there. I want to live the life that when my time ends, someone could point and go, he pursued righteousness and godliness, faith, love, steadfastness, and gentleness. I am in a period of time at work where, because of the economy, because of it's a pretty small industry, there's not a lot, but there are some competitors that I just am frustrated by the way they're going to market. And the answer is what it causes is stress among teammates, and it's like, man, it just feels like every day is a tougher day than the day before. And so what I want to be known for at work is steadfastness and godliness, pursuing righteousness, not winning at work, not winning in the marketplace. And that's tough because, man, it's like you wake up and most of your hours are spent in something other than reading scripture, in prayer. Like, most of our minutes each day are in the world, not in the word. And you've got to hold on so tight. That's why it continues to go on. It says, fight the good fight of faith. Take hold of that eternal life that you were called and about which you made the good confession in the presence of many witnesses. Like, people are watching and heaven is watching and God is with us and he empowers us to fight that good fight of the faith and not be tempted and distracted.
Great word, Lawson. Focus on what to pursue. 1 Timothy 6:11. Great ending point. Dad, we hope today we've encouraged you to continue walking through some pieces of your life that might seem boring or mundane, but over time you will reap a harvest from those if you do not give up. And you know what? Email us at info@manhoodjourney.org and tell us what we missed. What are the other boring things that you do day in and day out that have become maybe a snare for you, or you rejoice and take joy in the fact that, I do this every day and I'm okay with it? Let us know. Or better yet, go to manhoodjourney.org/podcast, scroll down and record a voicemail for us, and we'll play you on one of our future shows. When we get too excited and we need to be reminded of what's boring, we can play your voicemail because you can tell us what you find boring. Wouldn't that be exciting?
And let us know. Let us know if you would buy a t-shirt, a Manhood Journey t-shirt that says, be boring.
Be boring. Boy, I love that. Hey, shout out to the legal team. Trademark notice. Let's go. Yeah. Get that one nailed down. Dad, go be boring. Be mundane. Be consistent. Another word for all that is be faithful. We'll see you next week with a riveting, not boring episode of Father on Purpose. Hey, Dad, guess what? Today's episode does not get produced for free. We have some costs around here, and aside from our amazing sponsors, we have a group of people who help share that burden, and they're called the Fatherhood Guard. For $25 a month, you can join the Fatherhood Guard and be a monthly supporter of our ministry and this podcast. What do you get for that? Well, first, the joy of supporting a ministry like Manhood Journey. Secondly, you help animate things around here. You get cool merch. You get sneak previews. You're part of the insider club at Manhood Journey when you join the Fatherhood Guard. Would you consider doing that? Head over to manhoodjourney.org and you can join today. Secondly, consider sharing this episode with somebody you know. there's a pretty good chance that someone you trust shared this show with you in the past. Now, there are men around you who trust you. It might be your brother-in-law, your friend, your pastor. You know somebody who would benefit from today's episode who's a dad that needs to be encouraged. Share this show with them today. And remember, as you go, you are not a father on accident, so go be a father on purpose. Hey, Dad.
Hey, Dad.
Welcome to... Why are you bugging me? Jeez, man. Be quiet.